Good morning, Mike. It's Dennis Clark. It's about 7:15 a.m. on January 25th. This is a review of your golf lesson on the 24th, January 24th, 2020 at my school. So I think the best description for you, as we've worked with you for a few years, is that everything gets a little too loose at times. So whenever I've worked with it, I've just tried to tighten it up just a little bit. And, some progress on that line, but when we have a mode, or when we're in a mode, or when we have a certain default, poor swing habit, we always resort to it over time. So we have to be careful of that. And I'm going to point a few things out here for you. And I think I can find one of them right here. Yeah. So these small shots, this pitch shots that we were doing, they are sort of a microcosm of your full swing, really. And I'll show you what I mean by being a little bit loose with it. So if I put you there, now what you'd see in a top line player is that they would be staying in that box. You see that shift to the right there? This is a small shot of 20, 30 yards, but this gets magnified when you do a full swing. And there's one reason for fat right there. Okay, so you could start working on it right here, whereas you'd actually see the left hip going this way, going over this way instead of sliding back. So you tend to slide off the ball. That's it in mini. And you'd want to feel like it's a turn off the ball. So let me show you what I mean by that. So you would have, this is a bigger swing, but it's the same principle that I'm talking about. So if you had a line here, you'd notice that you see the right hip, it actually goes targetward or toward his left, or it turns, but it stays inside this box. That's what I mean. Nothing gets to the outside here. You tend to have a pretty big sway to the outside of your foot, and then it's hard to recover. So primarily the shot that we worked on for you was fat shots, right? You have a tendency to hit behind a golf ball. So what I'd like to do is get it to the point where you can stay over the ball more. You could do that drill I gave you with a wedge under your foot here, or a golf ball. They sell a little foot wedge that goes in there if you choose to do that. And the second thing we look at and say, well, why fat, is because you tend to, when you sway, you tend to pull that club in way inside you here, instead of letting the wrist break and the club go up a little bit more. So now you're inside with a sway. That's two things that will cause you to hit the ground behind it. And the last one is you throw the club head instead of pulling it down like a little casting of the club. You do it more on your irons than you do on your driver. But that's the thing to think about, is because you do that, you want your body completely turning through the ball here. That rotation. These are, world-class athletes and young guys. I'm not saying that we're going to get that much, but every great player does that. Everybody who's even a good club golfer has some ability to get the lower body out of the road and bottom out in front of the ball. There's the ball. His divot's going to be out here. And the reason for that is because he's holding the angle a lot longer coming down, granted, but he's also turning and he's not swaying. So here's an example. Look at the hips going already. Look how far that right hip is from where it started. That's driving through the ball. There's that right side moving all the way through the golf ball. This is a picture of Rory when he was young guy. I love that lower body motion that they make off of the initiating it from the ground up, as we say. And that left arm fully extended and the body coming through. So his whole, there's no hang back in these kids anymore. It's the upper body right over the lower body. Okay, so back to you. So I think the drill we gave you, the feeling we gave you, was to have the first foot of your swing straighter, not pulled so far inside so quick. That alone will keep you over the ball a little bit more. Because if you pull it inside, you're going to sway to the inside, then you're going to be off of that right foot. So that's what I want you to do, is think of that first, that's why I drew this line here, that first bit, first foot or so, straighter back. Don't let it pull inside. I'm going to go a little straighter back. See, nothing over the top. If anything, it's very far from the inside, and that left arm is starting to contract there. So you can let that extend as much as possible and keep turning through the ball. I want you to look at it like this, if you can get what I mean here. I might point it out better by saying this. Let me go back to your pitch shot here. Bottom line would be this. Right here is where we want to make a divot. Okay? Here is where you hit sometimes. And there's 3 reasons that you do that. You pull the club inside. The more it goes in this way, the more chance it has to bottom out back here. You sway with your body. The more you move to the right, the more chance you have to bottom out back there. And your release, your downswing release, it gets early. You uncock your wrist coming early, which is the part that we decided it's not worth it to try to change. As long as you're aware of those, an early release requires a couple things. Staying centered over the ball on your backswing is huge. Turning through the shot so you can move your weight over to this side is even as equally as important. And that will allow you to bottom out further forward. See, that's a really good one right there. Left arm's extended. And you turn through with the upper over the lower and no hang back. Let this little pitch shot here be a good example of what we're talking about. And I would, do little pitches. Now that you're going to get more time to work on it, and you can actually do some of these drills, I would keep something under the outside of your right foot here, for sure. That's a good finish position right there. I think you could get that as an image right there. If you're always moving like that, if you don't sway as much in the backswing, you're going to hit a lot less fat shots. That's pretty much what I worked on with you yesterday. If I left anything out, just give me a holler.